British academic and co-editor of the recently published book Contemporary Protest and the Legacy of Dissent, Professor Stuart Price recently took the time to sit with Sunday's Zaman to share his expertise in the field of political dissent and discuss the internal security package in the face of an increasingly authoritarian government. 69 amendments have now passed in Parliament despite the staunch protest of opposition deputies. Mounting fears of Turkey becoming a police state are quickly becoming the nation's reality. With amendments that seek to give harsher punishments for protesters, the use of Molotov cocktails against police officers and the damage of state or private property can now result in immediate arrest and 4 years imprisonment. Also, an article regulating the penalties for protesters who wear masks to conceal their identities imposes greater prison terms. Furthermore, if a protester is found guilty of damaging state property, he or she will not be released by the court pending trial. When the police hold people separately from the judiciary extrajudicially, that's a recipe for disaster. Police do not have enough consent from society to act independently in that way. That's when people get killed in custody, stated Price, a professor of media and political discourse at De Montfort University. Even before the security bill passed, the police had put on a show of force during the Gezi Park protests that rocked the nation in the summer of 2013. Turkey has not been the same ever since. There is a great deal of planning in social movements, and spontaneity can often be overemphasized, but nonetheless, in many of these things you find an event that crystallizes people's sense of injustice, explained Price, a statement which reflects the Gezi movement quite accurately. In late May 2013, hundreds of demonstrators occupied Gezi Park, located within the historically significant Taksim Square, to prevent construction workers from felling trees in the park after the police had tear-gassed and burned the tents of a handful of environmentalists. The demonstration soon snowballed into a nationwide movement in which all demographics critical of the ruling Justice and Development Party, AK Party, were able to voice their reproach of the increasingly rigid politics of then Prime Minister and now President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Ever since, the sight of water cannons accompanied with teams of riot police has become commonplace, especially in Istanbul neighborhoods such as Besiktas, Okmeydan, Taksim Square, and Kadki. These kinds of responses, these draconian responses, are universal across the globe in the current period, stated Price, referring to the police backlash after the massive protests. During the demonstrations, several youths lost their lives due to police brutality. The most notorious case was the death of 15-year-old Berkan Elvan, who lost his life after being in a coma for 9 months as a result of being hit in the head by a tear gas canister in Okmeydan. An expert in political dissent, Price stated, because there are countries throughout the world that have got very bad human rights records, which are completely anti-democratic, it is assumed that internally, in places like the UK, that you're looking at a kind of functioning democracy. But when you're at these kinds of events, you're not in a democracy. I think something else takes over. Sometimes it's called a state of exception where suddenly things are taken over by the state and the same rules don't apply. But now, with the passing of the security package, it is expected that violence against citizens will become normalized instead of being an exception. Elements of the security state are always thinking about ways in which they can use severe methods against protesters. In other words, when is it right to use firearms, he added. May 1st, International Labor Day, is quickly approaching. Istanbul Governor Vazip Sahin has said Taksim Square will not be open for celebrations on the holiday despite the ambitions of a group of unions. Leftists and unions still have their eyes set on continuing their May Day celebrations in Taksim, for the square holds particular historical importance for workers. The most significant incident of May Day in Taksim Square took place in 1977, when 33 people were killed in a stampede while trying to escape gunfire from unknown parties. Now, with much of the security package having passed in Parliament, and high levels of security certain to be on standby, tensions build as the holiday approaches.